So tell us about what these culture champions look like and who are they and what is their charge in your
Yep.
organization?
I will say they are global. They are in all of our offices. They have their own jobs. They have day jobs.
Mm,
They have been, anointed is not the right word, but they are culture
kinda.
champions. I call them
Yeah.
that, meaning someone's having a bad day, someone needs to go for a walk, want to have a coffee with someone. How are you doing? Reaching out, making sure people have friends at the workplace, making sure that they're not the ones sitting alone at lunch, that type of thing. And so the way I found them were they were people just like me
Mm,
that were doing this already, but having a day job. And that way we build the connective tissue because
mm.
that's our strength. So they're people I can rely on in my heart of hearts that have great intuition and want this to be the greatest career choice that anyone makes.
Claude Silver is VaynerMedia's and the world's first ever Global Chief Heart Officer, tasked with fusing empathy and agency to unlock employee potential and foster a culture of belonging across the 2,000 plus person organization. Between her deep education in psychology and spirituality, the 2 decades she spent as an advertising strategist, Claude has been studying and influencing human behavior for over 3 decades. Outside of her role at VaynerMedia, Claude speaks globally about the need for heart-led leadership in today's workplace and the importance of treating employees like people, not numbers. Her success in guiding client relationships, global brand strategies, operations, management, and culture is driven by her abiding passion for creating spaces in which people can show up as their true selves and thrive as a result. Claude, welcome to Voices of HR.
Thank you so very much for having me. It's a real honor.
Well, we are so excited to have you here. And we just have to start off by asking the big question, which I know our Voices of HR audience wants to know, which is tell us about the Chief Heart Officer title. You're not a traditional HR person. So tell us all about that.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, I don't come from HR. I was a strategist for a very, very long time. And in fact, I stayed away from HR. It was not a place I really wanted to venture into. It was not a relationship I had ever had in any of
Mm,
the companies I was with. And so, even though I love psychology and coaching and being that guide for people, it was something I stayed far, far away from. However, I was with VaynerMedia and Gary for 16 months. And right around my 16th month, I said to Gary, thank you so much. This is a great place. I love it here, but I no longer want to do advertising. And he
mm,
said, what do you want to do? And I said, I only care about the people here. I care about the heartbeat. Heartbeat. So one thing led to another. I actually resigned because there was no role. And 4 months later, he called me back. We had breakfast and he said, that's it. You're coming back. You will be Chief Heart Officer. And I knew what that meant in my bones. I knew what that
mm,
meant because it's who I am. It's what I've always been doing.
mhm.
It doesn't matter what company I've been at, or doesn't matter what team I've been on. It's just something that is innately in me. Just like some other people are great at reading and retaining that information. So I asked him two questions. One, cool, sign me up. What are we doing here? And he said, we're building the single greatest human organization in the history of time.
Mm,
Yes. And then, of course, I said, how do we know if I'm successful? And he said the following: you will touch every single human being in our agencies and infuse them with empathy. And that continues to be the only job description I have. So it's mine every day to figure out what to do with that as CHO. And the last thing I said, just to circle back on the first question, is I said, Gary, I've never done HR, wasn't my thing. I stayed away from HR. And he said, that's great. You'll hire a very strong team around you.
mm,
So in time and in years, I feel like I've hired people that are rock stars with the science of it, the art and the science, I would say, of HR. And then, of course, I changed the name of the department to people and experience because that's what we're doing.
I love that story so much, and it tells me so much about him as he's a big personality, right? I mean, he's out on social media. Everybody knows who Gary is, but he is one of those CEOs who actually walks the walk. And this is proof of that,
Mhm.
right? And that he can identify talent like you and let you go do your job.
It's amazing. The autonomy that I have and the autonomy that we give everyone is extremely important
Mm,
because, for example, in this job, there that's the job description. So I have to figure it out. I can't say to Gary, well, how do I infuse empathy throughout the
right.
organization? Obviously, it's something that he saw and he felt and he believed in. And so it was mine to manifest and to bring people with me. Culture Champions is a big part of scaling the heart, scaling culture.
So tell us about that. So tell us about what these culture champions look like and who are they and what is their charge in your
Yep.
organization?
I will say they are global. They are in all of our offices. They have their own jobs. They have day jobs.
Mm,
They have been, anointed is not the right word, but they are culture
kinda.
champions. They call them
Yeah.
that. Yeah. They are people who I believe could substitute as me or as Gary in a heartbeat.
Mm,
Meaning someone's having a bad day, someone needs to go for a walk, want to have a coffee with someone. How are you doing? Reaching out, making sure people have friends at the workplace, making sure that they're not the ones sitting alone at lunch, that type of thing. And so the way I found them were they were people just like me
mm,
that were doing this already, but having a day job. And so I'll tell you what I do. Around 90 days, 120 days, I will meet with all of our new joiners. And in those meetings, which are 15 minutes each, I will ask them a variety of questions. And one of them will get to, have you made any friends? Have you met people
mm.
outside of your core? If they haven't, I will say, I would love to introduce you to 9 culture champions around the globe. You're going to have 15-minute conversations with them. Do it in the next 3 months. And that way we build the connective tissue because
Mm,
that's our strength, our connections, osmosis, asking someone who's been here for 9 years, why have you been here for 9 years? Why have you been here
mhm.
why did you leave and come back? Those types of things. So they're people I can rely on in my heart of hearts that have great intuition and want this to be the greatest career choice that anyone makes.
And how do you recommend? Because I'm sure all of our listeners are thinking right now, I would love to have an organization like that. So, as you think about where most traditional HR departments are today, they're just trying to get by. They're trying to get post COVID, they're trying to get their people back in the office, all of these tactical issues. This is so much more of a strategic brand issue for you. Um, any recommendations on how they could start the conversation with their CEO or with their leader to infuse this type of culture?
Absolutely. And I am very lucky because I have a boss that is promoting this and is all about that. And I
Yeah.
recognize that. And what I say to this question is you always want to benchmark where you are.
Mm,
So benchmark where these 20 people are in their happiness, in their fulfillment, in their enjoyment of work, in their wanting to come back to the office, whatever it is. Benchmark that. Go to your CEO, your CFO, whomever it is, your board, and say, I'd like to do a study. It'll take 6 to 9 months. I only need a little bit of money.
mm,
And then you start having courageous conversations with them. You start doing a book club. You start spending time with one another, getting to know one another, creating those safe, courageous spaces for one another. And in
mhm,
6 or 9 months, whenever your study is over, you will test them again. You will survey them. And I guarantee you will see a spike in enjoyment, pleasure, wanting to come to work, wanting to be in the office more. Because at the end of the day, we're wired to belong. Human
mhm,
beings are wired to belong. We want to be with one another.
mhm,
Sometimes we need a little motivation or we need to feel like we matter, not just that we're valued, not just that we're important, that we matter, that I
mhm.
matter to you. So you take that study and you go back to the CEO and you say, we've seen an increase in 50% engagement, 45% engagement, and I'd like to put some money behind this. We still have our regular jobs. We'll do what we need to do to keep the lights on and all of that. And we truly believe that leaning in on culture in this way and spreading kindness and spreading compassion and camaraderie is the way of tomorrow. And we want to be there tomorrow. We want to retain these folks. And obviously, we want to attract newer folks.
It is about connectedness. And when an HR pro goes into their organization and starts having these conversations, is that how you identified the culture champions then? Or how did you identify them?
I love that question. I have to tell you, I've never been asked that question. So thank you. I identified them in all of my travels, in all of my 15 minutes or 30 minutes
Mm,
with people, and I got a sense of who they were.
mm,
And I got a sense that they were interested in the purpose and they were interested in something bigger than just coming in every single day and doing their day job, which is a lot already.
yeah, yeah,
But it was literally an intuitive gut check. And you know, as well as I know, when you ask someone if they want to be a culture champion, they light up.
yeah,
You chose me? Yeah, I
yeah,
love your attitude.
yeah.
Why me? Because look at who you popping off the screen. You're lightning in a bottle. Yes, I want you on my team, or
Right.
so that in itself gives someone a real pep. And this is what it's about. Like we know people are burnt out, people are experiencing
Mhm,
alienation and loneliness, and there's a lot of anxiety in the water and everything that you and I read about every single
mhm.
day. And so
Yeah,
bolstering them with that culture champion, that's not HR.
right.
They're just going for a coffee walk. I don't go back and say, "Hey, Chris, how was that walk you took with Johnny?" I don't. If
Yeah.
Chris wants to come to me or if there was sensitive information, sure, they can come to the PET team. But
Mhm,
otherwise, you've just met a great friend and you both like
mhm.
drumming or you both like Pearl Jam or you both want to go to Bali. Fantastic.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this is such a practical and tangible way to live your culture and your values.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we miss most in organizations today is that we talk about the culture, we write it on the wall, but we don't give people the tools to actually live it. And culture champions can help you live your organizational culture and values.
Exactly. And it really is of no cost.
Right.
These are people that are just like you and me that are good citizens. That
Right.
you hold the door open for someone when you're leaving the bank and so does this
Mhm.
person. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Someone that will just go the extra mile to make someone's day a little bit better, to leave someone feeling just a little bit brighter. That's it.
So when you hire into your organization, I suspect you used to have a way that you maybe hired in the past. Maybe, we hear a lot about cultural fit. Then we've heard cultural add. How do you hire?
Love the question. Thank you.
Mm,
When I took over as a CHO, we didn't have any HR in place. So we had a couple
mm,
of recruiters, we had some benefit people, but we really didn't have anyone. And so it was really starting from scratch. What I noticed, because I had been at the company for 16 months, is that we had a strong culture, but we had a lot of apples and apples and apples and apples. And we know that we need to diversify the floor and create an inclusive culture in all of our offices to
mhm.
attract and to retain. And because it's the right thing, we're a
Right.
microcosm of the macrocosm. So
Yes.
I immediately took away the term culture fit because it was getting us same, 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 same. Too many people that like Pearl Jam. There
Mm,
wasn't enough jazz in there, or country music and whatnot. So I changed it to skill set fit and
mm,
culture addition. The skill set fit really allowed us to hire people that we knew could do the job today, tomorrow, and that we actually thought would be with us for the next 5 to 10 years,
mm,
rather than getting the same, same, same. And so we diversified basically the fruit basket, which opened us up to more curiosity, to hearing about different cultures, to seeing things through another person's eye, wherever they may be. And that has been a real win for us. it has been, not only do I believe it's the right thing to do, I think it is the smart thing to do. What we used to do when we were hiring for Culture Fit is assume you and I like culture, like Pearl Jam. And so we're good. You're going to come in, you're going to do the job, and I'll see you in 3 months, sink or swim.
Yeah.
And that can only get you so far, especially in a company like ours that is growing like a rocket ship.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What has your growth been?
So we have a holding company called VaynerX.
Mm,
And VaynerX is the umbrella to all of our other companies. So I actually work for VaynerX.
okay.
VaynerX has 2,000 people around the globe that I work for, whatever business they're on, whatever company they're in. VaynerMedia itself is probably close to 1,000 right now. New York being the biggest headquarters that
Mhm.
we have. And then we have our other hubs are London, Amsterdam, Singapore, Southeast Asia, Australia, LA, Mexico City, and Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have been doing a lot of hiring,
Yes. Yes.
and for this skill set fit and culture addition.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit more about the skill set fit.
Great. We created what's called core competencies across the board in every department for every role you're in. These core competencies are foundational and functional. Foundational are how you behave, your behaviors that
Mm,
we expect: kindness, being the bigger person in every situation, going out of your way to help someone out. Functional is the skills you need, the craft you need to do your job efficiently and effectively and exceptionally. Each and every role has those. So if you are a copywriter, for example, you will have your core competencies around that skill. It
mhm.
will tell you what you need to get to the next level, where that gap is. And
Wow.
so that is part of the people and experience team. That is something that we walk you through. We also do a lot of talent mapping throughout the year in each department to assess where this person is in their journey and their
Mhm.
growth in what it is we're doing today. Are they underachievers? Are they enigmas? Are they high
Mm,
performers? Are they going to be the next CFOs, CEOs? And we spend time, obviously, figuring out the enigmas because we want to figure it out. Are they in the wrong job? Are they in the wrong
right.
company? Are they working on the wrong account? And we spend time with our high performers because obviously that's really our
Mhm,
bread and butter. And we need them to be mentoring
mhm.
those that are in and around them.
So it sounds like you hire for both skill and culture, but you also, once they're in your organization, you really go to a lot of effort to help them not only succeed in their current role, but help them achieve if they want to continue to ascend and take on more responsibility and be challenged in a different way. Sounds like in a very individualized way.
Extremely high touch.
Yeah.
It is extremely high touch. And I will tell you what my remit is for 2024 that Gary just gave me.
Hmm.
It is
Oh boy, let's hear it.
to sit with, to get to know all 2,000 people. That is
Wow,
high touch.
that's high touch.
That's extremely high touch. And they have their HR business partner already, and they have their
Mhm.
managers. And that's what we do. We spend time with people. We want to really ensure that, we made an agreement with them when they joined. You will give us your authentic, consistent self,
Mhm.
your energy, your brain, your wisdom, your curiosity, your generosity, and we are going to give you opportunity at bats. You're going to work on Fortune 10, Fortune 50 companies. You can innovate here. You have a large runway to run with. And that's the agreement we make. And so it's very important that we are keeping check on that, on both sides.
Yeah. So once they come into your organization, they have these discussions, you watch over their career, you have one-on-one conversations with them. What does the feedback loop look like? We just had someone on last week, Jason, who talked about year-end appraisals and how those are so outdated, and it's really about constant feedback. I suspect you have a different take on this, or a unique take on this.
Well, yeah, it's similar to Jason's in that we've done away with annual reviews because that doesn't really help
Okay.
anyone.
Ah,
What we do is we have quarterly reviews, which are check-ins,
okay.
and we have changed that to growth. We've used different nomenclature because naming and labeling creates either panic or desire in someone's ears,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So everyone will have a growth plan, a career plan, meaning you come in today, you're going to sit with your manager in 30 days or so, and you're going to go over the role that you're in, the core competencies, and then that will be the guide, your trail map for the rest of your career at Vayner, whether or not you move to Australia, whether or not you change departments, whether or not
Wow.
you become a manager. And that way we can keep track of where it is you're going and what it is you need. And this is something we're iterating on all the time. So the other thing that I'm really excited about is I would say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I all of a sudden said, wow, I am missing so many people because all I see is their exit interview. And their exit interview told me that it didn't work. And their exit interview told me X, Y, and Z. And that's not okay. So we have 120-day reviews where they meet with their HR business partner 120 days after you started. We ask you 3 questions. We want you to stay. And that is a good indication of what we can do to shapeshift to see what's going on. Or if it's going great, let's continue. So it is constant. It's constant.
I love how your focus is on what most companies talk about, which is growth, right? Most companies want to grow.
Yeah.
And it takes the people growing with them in order to succeed. So every single person in your organization has a growth plan or a career plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And everyone has seen their core competencies. And that's really that's the Bible for you. So it's so important because even you and I, in invisible ink right here, it says, help me grow. I want to grow. Even you and I.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's our responsibility. That's my responsibility. That's everyone's responsibility, but that is the PET team's responsibility and the managers and the mid-level managers. And that's what we promised you. You know, we don't want you to stagnate. We want you to continue with us.
So you have talked about the way in which you ask your folks to provide feedback to each other is honest yet kind candor. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, we are nice guys and gals. And nice guys and gals don't want to hurt people's feelings, just like everywhere else. And so what we were doing was either withholding feedback subconsciously, not intentionally, or we were giving praise. Or that was a great presentation. But you don't really walk out with anything to work on, right? So a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, we read Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And then I started to Vaynerize it. And then Gary decided to put the word kind in front of candor because that's who we are. And that is our belief. If we are creating that safe space and removing fear from that conversation, we can be honest. We are coming into it with really one thing in mind, which is how can we help you? What is it that you need from us? And that's a pie in the sky question. You can answer it either, a zillion ways. But that's where we are today with our people. Everyone's got a different roadmap, and we want to make sure that we can help them achieve it. And if we can't, that is okay also. We have an alumni program. So when people leave us or we let them go, they will be contacted by the person that runs our alumni program. And this is a place where loads and loads of CMOs or directors are sending us their jobs. And who doesn't want someone from VaynerMedia? If they're not performing at 100% or 90% at our company, that doesn't mean they're bad.
Right.
It means it might be the wrong
Right.
company.
Right.
And you might be phenomenal at Kellogg's, and you might be terrific at Pepsi.
Right.
So we try to place as many people. I should actually say we network, and we will get you that first conversation. And if we need to put more muscle behind it, we will.
Amazing.
It's
Amazing.
very cool. It
I
is
have never heard of another company doing that.
Yeah.
It's always what you, I think, would aspire a company would do,
Yeah.
because to your point, you could be a high performer someplace else, just not at your organization.
Yeah, for sure.
So now so Gary has also said to you, and I love this, go find the fear or go find the cancer. What is he talking about?
Yeah. He is talking about the cynicism. He is talking about the bully. He is talking about the micromanager. He is talking about the manager that just gave someone really, really sensitive feedback in an inappropriate way.
Mm.
He is talking about the person crying in the bathroom. And how do I find those people? Well, I listen to my team. I listen to managers. I meet with so many people during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I get a sense. I reach out to people all the time on Slack or on text, just, hey, thinking about you, let's catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this is trying to do is be as proactive as we possibly can. Where there is smoke in the distance, that's where I want to go. I don't want to wait until it's a blazing fire. It's too late. I don't want to wait until that exit interview. I'm helpless.
Mm-hmm.
But myself and this organization can do a lot of proactive good if we know what's up. And that means we need you to share with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a scary thing for some people. They would rather share on Glassdoor or on Fishbowl, which is a whole nother thing.
So I stay quite busy getting the phone calls from executives where they have been bullied or they have been literally tortured by their boss or even a peer within their organization at the executive level. And I have to work through that with them and explain to them what is actually happening. It's most often not what they think. So what happens when you find, and I suspect there's not very many, but you find the smoke, you find the cancer, you find the fear. What does that conversation look like?
What is going on?
Mm.
I have heard, or we have heard now from 5 people on your team that they don't feel comfortable sharing with you. Or I'll find another word for a bully. You're a micromanager. What is it? Tell me what's going on. Do you not trust them? You're safe here. You're safe here. You're doing great here. However, that's a big vulnerability. So tell me what's going on. Now, I will say last year, I had this conversation with a senior executive, and what was going on is his father was being moved to a nursing home. Well, that's a huge life event. And he felt powerless. And so he chose to find power in the people in his department. And that was an easy equation. It took us a while to get there, but it was an easier equation, and he's doing great and the team is doing wonderfully. But it is really about entering into that conversation just as human as I can possibly be, as human as I can be. And that is obviously sharing ways in which I might be a micromanager, which doesn't really happen, but ways in which I'm not perfect. This is not a utopia. This is hard work every single day. And it is hard work to direct a team and to work in this environment, in this financial, economic environment. So there are a lot of stresses. But what we just want to say is there's a solution to almost everything here. What is it? Except someone's health. What is it? What can we help you with, manager, so that you don't feel like you need to breathe down someone's neck or criticize them in front of people? That's a non-negotiable. That's not going to happen again. And we will find every now and then that there are people that they're not interested in changing their behavior. Or they still can't quite clock their behavior and understand it. And there's only so much we can do. At the end of the day, I'm not a therapist, and we want people to have such a great experience here. We really believe that this is a place that people can stay at in the ecosystem for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to have people that are rowing in the same direction as us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we mean when we go find the fear or find the cynicism.
I've heard you mention this more than once, 2, 3 times so far. What can we do to help you? How can we help you? And as I'm listening to you say that, I take myself back to being an employee or a team member and wishing that my manager would have asked me that just once. I have never had that question asked of me in my entire career. Now I ask it of the people that are my clients,
Of course.
but that is such a powerful question.
Yeah, thank you. It is. It's literally, it freezes someone in the best of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it takes down that fight, flight fear.
Yeah.
And it's literally, what is it that you need? Tell me what you need, either in this moment
Mm-hmm.
or in the next 30 days. And that's it. And again, we'll do as much as we possibly can. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot we can do. A lot of the time, it is about connecting people. It is about
Yeah.
taking action. And I said in a video a zillion years ago, maybe 7 years ago, people need people. People need people that listen and then do something. And when someone comes to me, that is my job, to listen and to do something. I want them to feel like this is a fertile place. They can learn about AI, and they can learn about platforms, and they can learn about the back end of TikTok. They can learn so much here.
Mm-hmm. So you have an organization, obviously, that is caring, and you have built this incredible culture that you really tend to and nurture every single day, literally, because you're talking to every single person in your organization throughout the year, but you still achieve bottom line results. Because, I mean, just listening to Gary Vee, right? And listening to you, yes, it is still a business. And so, can you share with our listeners a little bit about how this approach to caring and humanization of employees, for lack of a better term, I know that you don't call them employees, team members, um, how that has shaped your bottom line results?
It is one thing that we are constantly looking at, I will tell you that.
Mm,
And I go back to the term kind candor. I go back to when it is we have an employee that is an enigma or who is an underperformer. And what have we done there? Have we given that person feedback? Have we introduced that person to subject matter experts? Have we given that person coaching if they've asked for it, or different trainings? What have we done? It's our promise. What have we
mhm,
done? And where are they in the system? If they have not improved, or they don't want to improve, or we haven't seen improvement, we have conversations with them.
mm,
And that might be something to the effect of, we're doing a reorg,
mhm,
or we are letting you go today. This will be a tough conversation.
mhm,
This is why, as you know, we've gone through a growth plan with you in the last 90 days. We've asked to see these improvements. And then we have that conversation. What that allows us to do on the other side is hire top talent, is find top talent. And sometimes that top talent, they're boomerangs. They're people that have been with
mm,
us and they left for 3 years and they're coming back. So that is helpful to our bottom line when we look at where we might have bloat in the system,
mm,
where we've got 5 people going to a meeting that really only required one or
mhm.
two. Everyone likes to go to meetings because you all want to hear the same thing. But it's like just 2 people, just one person. That's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good. Everyone wants to be on that video call. So it's getting smarter with how we spend our time, how we spend our
Mm,
energy, and really being able to look at our top talent and our bottom talent and being
mhm,
honest about it. And that is tough because if you are the department head and I say to you, We just went through talent planning. You saw it. And there's 3 people on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to move on them. You will find a reason to keep them, even though you just told me they're bottom talent. Mostly because you don't know how soon we can hire in the next person.
Mm.
Mostly because we just landed a big client. Mostly because everyone feels overworked. So it's a interesting conversation and a human dynamic to be in
Mm-hmm.
when there are people that operate from scarcity and there are people that operate from abundance, and we want to operate from abundance.
Mm-hmm.
There are solutions to pretty much everything. We are a big company.
Mm-hmm. And so when you think about your top talent, I have to ask you this question. When you think about what skills they need in the future, I would say even now in the future, as we go through this enormous shift in the workplace, what do you think are the top 3 to 5 skills that great leaders, high performers need in order to be considered high performer in the future?
Vulnerability is an enormous piece of that. Accountability is an enormous piece of that. Being willing to say, you know what, that's on me.
Mm.
Because once you take responsibility, it's in the past. It's done. We can move on.
Mm-hmm.
Listening, communication, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving someone better than you found them is enormous
Mm-hmm.
to me. It is enormous. And I don't know what skill that is necessarily. There are a lot of skills that go into that. I think there's a skill called curiosity
Mm.
and being interested in things that are going on in culture, in the zeitgeist,
Mm.
whether or not that is AI, whether or not that is influencers, whether or not that is TikTok. That those things they go a long way. I'm interested in people that are interested in this world and also interested in giving to this world
Mm.
and also interested in knowing that they're here to do something massive and wonderful. And when I say massive, size actually doesn't matter. I mean massive with the heart.
Mm.
I mean massive for other people, massive for a culture. And I want to just share something that is really important to me, that my Nana, she died at 101 a few years ago, but up
Oh.
until she was 100, when I would go home and I would take her to the bank, or I would take her to Trader Joe's, or I would take her wherever, she would hand her credit card to Berta, who's the cashier at Trader Joe's, and you might help her use the machine, or I might help her use the machine, and you'd hand her receipt. And she would look up at you, and you have a name tag on, and she would say, Berta, and you would say, uh-huh. Would you do me a favor and have a peaceful day?
Oh.
And she'd walk out. Every person
Wow.
she came in contact with. So let's bottle that skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's the skill we need.
That is the skill we need moving forward. Okay, so unfortunately, we are at the end of our regular conversation, but we have this thing at the end called rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
these are 1-sentence questions with 1-sentence answers that we ask so that the audience can get to know you a little bit more. Are you willing to play?
I am ready.
You're shifting. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm ready to
I'm
go.
like,
All right.
more oxygen in my lungs. I'm ready.
What is the biggest challenge you're facing as a leader today, and how are you dealing with it?
Scaling the heart
Mm.
when I can only be at one place at one time. And I am leaning on those culture champions, and I'm leaning on the managers and leaders in those other areas in a big way.
What are bad recommendations you hear in HR being passed off as best practices?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. If I could kind of bottle that and figure out what that is, going back to the person that just yelled at you and saying, can I have a conversation with you?
Mm.
Putting yourself in positions that are not safe.
Mm.
That was 3 sentences.
What's your first 90-day playbook as a new head of HR? What would you recommend they focus on?
Getting to know as many people as you possibly can, from the top down, bottom up, middle, but certainly the people that are running the organization. listening. So I call it a listening tour. Usually it's 30 days that we have people do. And then they are assigned to different products or pods to get to know more of the business. Because as you and I know, in HR, we're the back office. So we're not on the front lines looking at the new pitch deck today, or we didn't know that we just won this client. So we need to socialize ourselves to socialize our team so that we can be more a part of the business, not just people that are there to partner with or provide something, but we want to be a part of. So get to know those department heads, get to know what it is we do, have people walk you through the pitch deck, how we think, why we think that way. Why does Gary care about kind candor? Those things.
So people first, business second.
Always.
What advice would you give to someone just starting out in HR?
Remind yourself why you have chosen this career path. And I would say 99% of the time, it's because you want to be with people and you want to be helpful and facilitate growth. Stay true to that.
When you get overwhelmed, how do you refocus?
Well, I have a little meditation mantra that I will say in my head, maybe 1, 2, or 3 times. I will definitely get up or shift, walk around. If I need to speak to someone, I will. If I need to shake off the energy, usually it's an energetic thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll have one of those little balls. I'll steal like a squish ball from one of my daughters.
Oh, squish balls. Yeah.
Yeah. But refocusing really is all about reminding myself what it is I'm here to do and taking my ego out of the way as much as I possibly can. This isn't about me. In those 15-minute conversations, it's not about me. It is about them. I am creating and holding space for them so that we can make this the best place ever.
If you could have your own billboard that would reach millions of people, or I should say in your purview, billions of people, what would your message be?
I have 2. The first one is around emotional optimism, which is something I talk a lot about. And emotional optimism is the ability to feel your feelings, to understand you are feeling sad, that situation made you mad, but to know, not only with hope, with faith, with optimism, but with support, that tomorrow's another day, that you get another bat, you get another at bat. Isn't that great? You get another at bat. You have to be willing to feel it and put it aside. That's emotional optimism. So I need to come up with the billboard for that. The other one is around a revolution of tenderness. These all sound so self-helpy as I'm saying them out loud, and they sound a little biblical if you think about it. But what I really mean is I would like to be a part of, create, co-create, doesn't matter to me, a revolution of tenderness in our workplaces. We have so much armor on. It's astounding. We all do. How can we recreate the world of work in a way that really matches up with who we are as a society and what these generations below us are asking for? Because they will be the CEOs very soon. They will be signing our paychecks very, very soon. And it doesn't have to be the way it was 100 years ago, 50 years ago, Gen X, 20, 30 years ago. It's a different world, and we need tenderness. People need tenderness.
So I was going to ask you, what's the main takeaway you'd like me to leave with the audience? And I think you just answered that.
Okay, answer that.
I think you answered it. Where can people go to learn more about you? And we didn't talk about this, but find your podcast, which is incredible.
Thank you. The podcast is called Emotional Optimism, Living in the Silver Lining, and you can find that on Spotify or Apple. They're really quick segments. I'm pretty vocal on LinkedIn. That's where I really do a lot of sharing. And it's not premeditated. It's usually something that's happened in that day or the day before that I'm talking about. I have a website, claudesilver.com, but reach out, please reach out. I'd love to know what people are up to.
So today we have been joined by Claude Silver, Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia. Thank you again so much for joining us, Claude. It has been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much for watching. We would love it if you shared your thoughts on any of the topics we discussed in the comments below. And if you got value from the video, it would mean the world to us if you hit the like button and subscribe to the HRMorning channel. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Voices of HR.